Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. The LCBO is officially on strike. We talk to those who are impacted here locally. Plus, a local pizza chef is vying for the honor of best in the world. He's competing in an international competition for the title. And our Rose City Rewind segment takes us back to 1983 when the city was deciding whether to ban alcohol in public parks. Day one of the LCBO workers' strike is underway, which means all 680 LCBO stores are closed across the province. The strike caught some thirsty customers by surprise, but local businesses who rely on alcohol sales were prepared. The concern, as Jacob Barker reports, is about their bottom line.
Confusion outside the downtown LCBO as people showed up to get their drinks for the weekend.
Does it affect you not being able to come out to the store to get alcohol?
Yeah, absolutely, like the convenience of it. So, but they are workers and the government should pay them what they require.
Some hopeful shoppers tried multiple locations.
So I know they actually have deliveries most of the time, but it's always best to come in person.
Workers on this picket line said they were not speaking on camera, but standing in front of this shuttered store, they were making their message clear. People can still order alcohol online to their homes with free delivery, but all LCBO locations will be closed for a 2-week period. The closure is a cause of concern for smaller spirit makers like the Wolfhead Distillery in Amherstburg. It distributes province-wide.
What changes for us is that we don't have any sales in the LCBO, so that'll be a huge loss of sales for us coming into the heat of the summer.
On the flip side, the store has seen an immediate uptick in online orders, and they're asking customers to come into their store to buy.
We've been getting calls all day, people asking, can I still come to Wolfhead and buy my spirits? So we are an extension of the LCBO, but we are still open. So our retail store is open 7 days a week, and we're happy to whoever wants to come and talk to us, taste and buy a bottle.
I do want to ask you what you think of the strike.
You know what? It's unfortunate. We all go to the LCBO. It's a place that everybody gets their spirits, and we just hope that they can find a quick solution, particularly because it's a really busy time.
Several restaurants we spoke with say they did do some last-minute stocking up.
We did a big shopping list. We basically made sure that we had all of our well liquors, doubled up in order, got what we could, but a lot of things were actually getting sold out.
This restaurant says it's good in the short term, but if the dispute drags on too long, they might have to switch things up.
So luckily, none of the things that we couldn't get had anything to do with our new summer cocktail list, but we're running low on a few things, so you better come in quick.
So whether or not we get to that point depends on how talks proceed from here. The Ontario Public Service Employees Union says it has a healthy strike fund and can weather a strike for as long as is necessary. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Windsor.
So how did it come to this? The first strike in the nearly 100-year history of the LCBO? Well, both sides say the key issue is government's plan for dramatically expanding where booze can be sold. Our senior reporter at Queen's Park, Mike Crawley, takes a look at the sticking points.
Hey, whoa, stop before it needs to go. Hey,
striking LCBO workers make it clear who they feel they're up against.
Let's be clear, Doug Ford is bullying us. That's what it is. He's trying to bully thousands of workers to accept their fate and accept that we will be gone.
LCBO management says it tabled a comprehensive offer to the union late Thursday afternoon and has made public some of the highlights. Wage increases of 2.5%, 2.5%, and 2% over a 3-year contract, converting 400 casual workers to permanent full-time status, and improving severance for laid-off employees. Job security is one of the union's top issues. They fear the impact of the government's plan to allow 8,000 convenience stores to sell booze.
We see this as an existential crisis for the LCBO. Do we want to have a public provider of alcohol as we've had for the past 100 years? Or are we just moving into a Wild West private model?
Ready-to-drink beverages are now the fastest growing segment of the alcohol market, racking up hundreds of millions of dollars in sales in Ontario. Right now in this province, you can only buy them at the LCBO. No! That will change this summer, with the government allowing their sale from grocery and convenience stores.
If the product becomes available in a variety of sources, people are going to go to the most convenient source. And so, yeah, so that's definitely going to have an effect.
The union believes that effect will snowball.
Spirit-based ready-to-drink beverages going, LCBO stores closing, public revenues being lost, jobs being lost. This is what we're facing.
The government's view? Particularly disappointed that the union is opposed to giving people what it calls the choice and convenience of buying ready-made drinks in grocery and convenience stores. While both sides say they are willing to get back to the table, there are no signs right now of that actually happening. The union says it has a robust strike fund and says its members are ready for a long fight. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Hudson's Bay at Devonshire Mall has been closed now for about 2 weeks. The culprit, a busted cooling system. The company says repairs are underway and it expects the store to reopen next week. The temporary closure of the bay has, however, come as a surprise to many. One local resident spoke with CBC Windsor video producer Mike Evans at Devonshire Mall.
I actually have a gift card in my bag right now. I'm going to a wedding this weekend and was hoping to get a dress and showed up and they weren't open. System issues, I believe.
Yeah, and from people I've talked to, they've been closed for about 2 weeks. Apparently they're working on the air condition, but do you have any fond memories of the Bay? Is that some place, one of your go-to places, stops at Devonshire Mall?
My husband always stops for a free sample at the perfumes counter.
So if the Bay was going to be closed for an extended period of time, how would that affect you?
Well, my gift card would be gone and I would have to find a new place to get some clothes for work.
It's been 30 years since the local chapter of Habitat for Humanity started work on its first home. The nonprofit organization uses volunteers to build affordable housing. In today's climate of inflation, there are more pressures than ever and hundreds vying for the homes they build.
We focus on families with children in their home who've been part of our community for 4 years, and that's what we're focusing on. And we bring them through the process together. As we change the way we build, we'll change our demographics. As we expand the number of builds that we do, we can obviously look at different criteria, but we filter through and go through a very long process with each of our families. And so, yeah, it's hundreds of applications for certain, more than we could build.
This year, Habitat is building 5 homes, all in Sandwich Town. 2 have already been completed. Well, we know Windsor, Essex has a stellar reputation when it comes to good pizza, but one local chef is really trying to put us on the map. Dean Litzter of Armando's Pizza Amherstburg has been put on a list by an international awards association with 200 other candidates from around the globe to compete for best pizza chef in the entire world. The CBC's Dalton Chen has more.
The man behind Armando's Amherstburg and Armando's Leamington is no stranger to accolades. But now pizza maker Dean Litzter, also known as Professor Za, is in the running for his highest recognition yet. He's among 200 names for Best Pizza in 2024, as determined by a world awards event called The Best Chef. If Litzter makes the finals on September 30th, he'll be traveling to Milan, Italy for the ceremony.
It was pretty amazing when they reached out to me. I guess I'd say I was caught off guard. I didn't expect that. Obviously, I always have my head down and I'm working hard, and it's nice to see some recognition for the hard work we're putting in. Like I said, not just for myself or the brand of Armando's, but also for the city of Windsor. Windsor as a whole is making such a huge impact on the pizza scene. It's definitely pretty exciting for us here.
Litzter has already achieved Canadian titles. He emerged the champion of the 2018 Canadian Pizza Summit, and he was named 2019 Chef of the Year by Canadian Pizza Magazine. He's also placed 3rd at the International Pizza Expo in Las Vegas. While Litzter is proud of Windsor-style pizza, he credits his willingness to venture beyond tradition as the key to his storied pizza career.
I think just being creative and being able to step outside the box and look at pizza a little bit differently. Windsor pizza has been the same for a really long time, and I mean, it's standing the testament of time. It gives myself and my other chefs that work with me the opportunity to become more creative and to come up with combinations that might be a little bit off the beaten path and really try to bring something special to the table for our customers.
Armando's Amherstburg is one of only 3 Canadian representatives in the competition. Meanwhile, 55 of the candidates on the list are based in Italy. But loyal local customers don't have any doubt Litzter's work is tops in the world.
I think it's just the best. Absolutely the best. Everything about it is what we like. The crust is important, and it always has a generous amount of fixings on the top. I've had it in the States, different places, different pizzas, all over, but I prefer this to anything else.
The ultimate winner of the competition will be featured and promoted by the Best Chef Awards as a truly world-class pizzaiolo, the Italian term for pizza specialist. Dawson Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
Happy July 4th weekend to all our American neighbors. I know there's going to be lots of Windsorites crossing that border to join in on the festivities with friends and family. Victor Paulo is here with what you can expect this weekend.
A smoky start to our day here in Windsor, and as we transition to our morning tomorrow on Saturday, we're going to realize it's more of a fog that we're going to be waking up to. Now, there's going to be a bit of overcast as well, and that's going to be bringing along some scattered showers. But these scattered showers aren't the type of showers which we're used to here in Windsor, which of course come around 20, 15 millimeters. These are going to be around 5, if not less, by the time it's all said and done, and it's going to be consistently throughout the weekend in little small pockets. Again, not enough to really change the temperature, not enough to change how warm things have been or how warm they will be. The continuation of the humidity is going to continue, with the humidex being closer to around the mid-30s by the time we reach to tomorrow. Now, we do know the average high for this time of year is 27.6, and today's high was around 28. But just like tomorrow, 27 being the high, the humidex is the big factor here that's going to be making things a little bit warm, a little bit sticky. And of course, if you are going to be outdoors, try your best to stay cool, try your best to stay in the shade, because it's not really good to be outside exercising for long periods of time, especially when it's as warm as it is. Now, taking a look at when and where that rain will be possibly happening, we can see that our morning tomorrow is going to be a little bit clear, a little bit overcast as we do start, as well as the fog patches which we spoke about. And here's what the scattered showers look like. It's going to be coming in little bit of pockets. It's not going to be coming in really big systems. And again, it's not going to be anywhere between 10 to 15 or 20 millimeters. As you see here, it's going to be between 5 millimeters by the time it's all said and done, but most likely less. When we're looking at rainfall total amounts like we did discuss, here's what it's going to look like by the time it's Sunday morning. We talked about it being closer to around 5 millimeters, as you do see here for the overnight. Not much more rain will be expected by the time it's Sunday midday. Now, taking a bit of a look ahead at things to realize, if you are experiencing heat exhaustion, dizziness, rapid heartbeat, as well as headaches, and you also want to make sure if you're feeling faint, you want to take a break from any activities you're doing, catch some shade as well as remain hydrated. Looking at our forecast for the weekend and for the start of next week, we can see temperatures start to slowly drop by the time we get to Wednesday, but it's still going to be consistently warm, muggy, and humid in the region. Hope you all have yourselves a great weekend, and over to you, Meg.
Thanks, Victor. The winner of CBC Windsor's Fish Fly Photo Contest has been chosen. Doug Balsillie with this revolting image caught the attention of our newsroom. We showed you this last night. Doug says he was sitting on a tractor in his Harrow orchard when he took this selfie. We caught up with him earlier today to talk about his annual relationship with the fish flies and his thoughts on this year's turnout.
By the end of the day, especially if you're driving the tractor or something and you've smushed enough of them through the day that you start to smell pretty fishy by the end of the day, and if you get enough dead carcasses on you, they stain your clothing, and it's a mess. It certainly wasn't a really bad year, and it went on not too terrible long. We've seen seasons where they go longer, and we've seen seasons where they've been much heavier than they were this year.
We're now in prime picnic weather, and it's hard to believe that residents used to be able to drink alcoholic beverages in public parks. It was in 1983 that the city started cracking down, starting with the Freedom Festival. This report done by former CBC Windsor reporter Margaret O'Sullivan on what would be the beginning of booze bylaws.
The bylaw got a bit of a test run during the recent Freedom Festival. On the evening of the fireworks, city police were able to confiscate bottles of alcohol found in the possession of anyone entering Dieppe Park. The police say the measure helped immensely with crowd control. Now they want the city to make it an offense to bring alcohol into Ganaccio Park, Sandpoint, and Stop 26 beaches.
There's been a request made for a special bylaw, which is allowable under the Liquor License Act, so that stricter enforcement can be made. Simply the change there is that rather than having to spot somebody consuming, It allows the police department to enforce the law by possession alone.
The matter was before council last night. Alderman David Cassidy wondered if the prohibition should be extended to all city parks. The legal department will consider the proposal and report back to council in 2 weeks.
Well, this morning, Detroit was a bit hazy looking from here in Windsor. Environment Canada with a special air quality statement warning about pollution. That view looking a lot clearer now as we head into the weekend. We have more coming up after the break. Josiah Sinan is back with us for his week's end segment. So we heard in the weather forecast that it looks like there could be some rain. Maybe a good time to do some reading. Pick up a book.
Yeah, curl up, get cozy. That is a great idea, Meg. And actually, there's a book event that I want to talk about for this week's segment. And this week, I was speaking to a Windsor-based author. Her name is Jade Wallace. They've just published their first novel under a palimpsest press called Anomia. It's a missing person story that follows some interesting themes. Hidden bones found in the woods, a missing couple, a mystery, and a whole lot more. And Meg, author Jade Wallace, tells me that if you grew up in southwestern Ontario, you'll get a good sense of the little small town quirks in this book. The setting is a fictional place called Euphoria, but Wallace pulled from that setting. And this inspiration actually all started here in Windsor. They were working towards their Masters of Arts at the University of Windsor, and the story was grown from there. So there's a bit of that homegrown sense to the book itself.
And I understand that there is something kind of special, something different how the book is written. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, this is really interesting, Megan. It's quite a unique choice, especially for an author to make. It's unlike any other novel most of us have read. That's because Wallace decided they did not want to make any references to sex or gender throughout the entire story.
Okay, so no pronouns. What inspired that?
Yeah, so there's definitely a bit of a methodology to that choice, and that's right, there are no pronouns like he, she, and the characters have ungendered names, like Skip, for instance. Wallace told me that this was kind of a practice in creating a utopia in some senses. They wanted to imagine a world without those labels and see what would happen within the story. Here's what they told me earlier today.
Errand, I think, sometimes, but it's something I'd wanted to do for several years for me, and I suspect probably for other people who have, shall we say, mixed feelings about gender identity. It always seemed like a bit of a utopia to me for there to be a world where we're not judged or discriminated against or assessed based on other people's notions about our sex and gender. I can't really make that happen in the real world, but I can make that happen in a fictional world. So it was, a little bit of wish fulfillment, I think. And then otherwise, I mean, there's other things to consider, right? Like if the world didn't have sex and gender in it, like how would we describe people physically, for example? So that was a challenge. And then just thinking about also how the society might be structured a little bit differently, or some of our assumptions might be different.
And Meg, something interesting Wallace shared with me is from the feedback they've gotten from the book so far, they've heard a couple of different things. So sometimes readers will assign genders on their own in their mind to the characters. And on the other hand, they might totally forget and realize that they didn't need that context. So either way, really interesting practice for both Wallace as an author and a new reading experience for the reader too.
And I understand there's also an opportunity to meet Wallace and get a copy. Can you give us the details?
Yeah, absolutely. So if it's raining on Sunday, you'll want to head to Biblioasis at 7 p.m. There is a book launch event happening there. You can grab a signed copy of Anomia and meet Jade to hear a lot more.
Thanks so much for that, Josiah. Have a great weekend.
Yes, you too. Enjoy.
Well, copper these days, almost as good as gold. That story coming up after the break. Statistics released today indicate that the unemployment rate has spiked in the country, with Windsor's jobless rate at the top. It's a small change that could be attributable to months of higher interest rates, according to experts. But it's having a big impact on the youngest members of the workforce. Anisa Dari explains.
The Calgary Stampede sees a lot of young people saddling up for work every summer. This year, the organization says it got tens of thousands of applications, many more than the actual number of jobs.
I was just told that 3,900 seasonal positions have been filled this year, so 3,900 jobs.
That high demand may not just be a Calgary thing. There are more young people looking for work this summer across Canada. Leaving out the beginning of the pandemic, youth employment is now at one of its highest rates, 13.5% in nearly a decade.
When we look at kind of like the ups and downs of the job market, youth are the most sensitive to when the labor market gets strong, the youth really benefit, and when things weaken, we see that they're the ones who get hit.
While total unemployment only ticked up by 0.2%, economists say the labor market is weakening for everyone.
Employers don't have all those job vacancies they're trying to fill the way we saw a year ago. And the pressure of higher interest rates is starting to show up in a slow economy and less hiring. So a much less friendly environment for those looking for work.
The Bank of Canada was deliberately cooling off the economy with high interest rates.
But I think now we're at the case of where we've got too much of a bad thing. The economy is slowing more than we likely need to get inflation under control. And so the Bank of Canada started to cut interest rates in June.
With employment joining inflation in the softening category, the Bank of Canada may keep looking to cut interest rates in the coming months. But one thing they will also be watching is wages. The average money Canadians made did go up last month, and that could mean interest rates take a bit longer before they drop. Anis Hidari, CBC News, Calgary.
All that glitters is not gold, but never mind that. These days, copper is a hot commodity, and people are going to great lengths to get it. Paula Duhacek has more.
Copper wire is a valuable commodity at this Vancouver scrapyard.
More people are, I guess, aware that the price is very high, so everyone's trying to get their hands on it.
Not all of them legally. Statistics Canada says theft of metal, including copper wire, is on the rise, a trend that's dovetailed with growing demand.
The problem is that over the last 10 years or so, we haven't been putting up enough investment to provide sufficient supply to balance the market.
The Canadian telecommunications industry says thieves often get their copper wire off telephone poles. This can cause service outages affecting thousands of people.
To me, it's a life safety issue because people depend on our network to be able to contact emergency services, so fire, ambulance, police, and so on.
Provinces like BC and Alberta now require people to have government ID to sell at scrapyards, but the Canadian Telecommunications Association says we need tougher national laws so the risk of stealing copper outweighs the reward.
Theft that causes outages, that brings down telecommunications infrastructure, should have significantly higher penalties than they do today.
A spokesperson for the Department of Justice says the criminal code already has a range of options to punish copper thieves, and that a proposed new sabotage offense would also target the crime. Still, some say debating punishment is the wrong conversation.
And you have to look at, why are these people stealing copper? Why are they risking being electrocuted? Why are they risking being arrested? And all this stuff is because people are desperate for one reason or another.
He says addressing problems like drug addiction and mental illness would pay off better in the long run. Paula Duhacek, CBC News, Calgary.
A new study is revealing some interesting facts about the humble hippopotamus. Researchers looked at videos of 32 hippos and found that they can go airborne when moving at high speeds. But you may be asking, how could we not know this about hippos? Well, it's due to the fact they spend most of their time in water, tend to be aggressive, and are most active at night, so studying them isn't easy. They generally only move fast when they need to, or perhaps also when they're hungry hippos? Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here next week.